Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
I'm your host, Mirko Peters. We explore how data science and AI drive real business impact, straight from the leaders making it happen. Today, we're tackling a deceptively practical problem that blocks many enterprise AI programs, the handoff between data producers and consumers. When that handoff is informal, slow, or mistrusted, projects stall, models fail in production, and executives lose confidence in data-driven decisions. In this episode, I'll argue that data contracts aren't just engineering artifacts. They're a strategic operating lever that aligns teams, budgets, and governance to produce reliable outcomes. Turning data into business impact starts with clarity between producers and consumers.
Here's the setup. Imagine a retail enterprise with dozens of upstream systems, multiple ETL teams, an analytics group, and a handful of product teams depending on consistent customer and inventory feeds. One change upstream, a renamed column, a surprise null spike, or a shift in timing cascades into broken reports and degraded model performance. Confidence disappears, teams revert to manual checks, and innovation slows. Data contracts are a way to formalize expectations: who owns what the schema and SLAs are, how lineage and audits are recorded, and what happens on breach. This matters now because enterprises are moving from pilots to productized AI, and you cannot scale without predictable inputs.
Before we dive into design and execution, let me introduce the perspective I'll use throughout the episode. We'll speak as if we're sitting down with a seasoned chief data officer at a large financial services firm, someone who's owned data strategy across mergers, led platform consolidation, and spent years negotiating SLAs with product and engineering teams. Their priority is clear: reduce production incidents, accelerate time to value for models, and make data inputs auditable for risk and compliance teams. That lens shapes the pragmatic trade-offs I'll outline. Start small, iterate, and measure impact against business outcomes rather than internal purity.
Let's define terms. A data contract is an explicit agreement between a data producer, the team that owns the upstream pipeline or source system, and a data consumer, the analytics, product, or ML team that depends on that data. Practically, a contract bundles four elements: a schema definition, fields, types, and semantics, service-level objectives, timing, freshness, availability, audit and lineage metadata, who changed what, when, and behavioral guarantees or transformations, e.g. deduplication, null handling. The goal is to make data a reliable, auditable input for decisioning and models. This is governance plus operational guardrails, framed as a service-level relationship.
When should you use contracts? Start with high-value, high-friction pipelines, those feeding revenue-impacting models, regulatory reports, or core decisioning systems. Don't blanket every data set at once. The right entry point is where failures are expensive or recurring. Also, use contracts where multiple consumers rely on the same source. A single contract can reduce redundant checks and rework across teams. Conversely, avoid rigid contracts for exploratory or ephemeral datasets. Keep those lightweight and govern differently. The balance is between trust and speed.
Design patterns matter. Treat contracts as code, versioned, reviewable, and testable. Schema definitions should be machine-readable and include field-level semantics and example values. SLAs must be measurable: expected delivery windows, maximum allowable nulls, acceptable drift thresholds. Include lineage pointers so consumers can trace a value back to source and attach audit logs for changes. Surface these through a catalog or platform API so both producers and consumers can discover and validate contracts programmatically. This lets you automate checks and surface violations before downstream systems break.
Enforcement is where organizations stumble. I frame enforcement along a soft to hard spectrum. Soft enforcement is notification first. When a contract is violated, producers and consumers receive alerts, and an incident ticket is created. This preserves speed early on while building shared awareness. Hard enforcement blocks changes that would breach a contract, for example, rejecting a schema migration or preventing pipeline promotion to production. Hard enforcement reduces incidents at the cost of agility and requires strong CI/CD and testing discipline. Your choice depends on appetite for disruption and maturity of engineering practices. Start soft, prove value, and selectively harden for critical pipelines.
Let me walk through a concrete roadmap an executive can sponsor. Phase 1, inventory and prioritization. Catalog your most impactful pipelines and record existing ownership. Phase 2, co-design contracts with both producers and consumers for 2 to 5 pilot pipelines. Keep contracts minimal but testable. Phase 3, automation. Integrate contract checks into CI, pipeline validation, and your data platform's deployment gates. Phase 4, metrics and incentives. Measure incident reductions, mean time to detect and recover, and hours saved by consumers. Tie those metrics to budget or SRE-like incentives, so teams are aligned to keep contracts healthy.
Real-world trade-offs are unavoidable. Contracts add friction. They can be seen as policing. The fix is governance by contract design. Involve both sides in authoring, keep contracts minimal, and make the contract lifecycle fast. Small, incremental changes approved via automated tests. Another trade-off is tooling. You can build custom tooling or adopt marketplace solutions. Build when you have unique platform needs and the team to maintain it. Otherwise, start with a lightweight combination of metadata stores and CI checks. The bigger risk is believing contracts alone solve quality. They are part of a broader program that includes monitoring, ownership clarity, and culture.
From a leadership and impact perspective, ownership and incentives are critical. Assign a clear producer owner and a consumer steward for each contract. At the executive level, make contract adoption and incident reduction part of quarterly metrics, reportably and visibly. Budget for platform work. Contract automation is an engineering investment that pays back in fewer incidents and faster delivery. Governance should include legal and compliance for datasets used in regulated decisions. Contracts make it easier for those teams to audit provenance and controls. Culture-wise, frame contracts as enabling service-level agreements that reduce rework, not as policing.
How do you measure success? Track adoption rate of prioritized contracts, incident frequency for contracted pipelines, time to detection and time to recovery, and downstream consumer rework hours. Translate those into business metrics: reduced model downtime, faster feature releases, and fewer regulatory escalations. A simple executive dashboard showing incidents avoided and developer hours saved is often more persuasive than technical measures alone. Tie those metrics to resource allocation decisions to sustain the program. Looking ahead, contracts will get more automated. Expect platform-led enforcement patterns, runtime validation against contracts, and tighter integration with feature stores and model registries. Regulatory expectations will also push enterprises to make lineage and auditability first class. Contracts help satisfy that demand. Leaders should invest now in metadata, automated testing, and a small centered team to manage contract lifecycle. Over the next 12 to 24 months, focus on pilot wins that demonstrate ROI and build repeatable patterns for wider rollout. Before we close, 2 actionable steps you can take this quarter. 1. Identify 2 to 5 high-value pipelines and co-design lightweight contracts with producer and consumer representatives. Make the machine readable and add simple CI checks. 2. Instrument a dashboard that tracks contract violations, incident counts, and developer hours spent on ad hoc fixes. Use it to show early ROI and secure further investment. Those 2 moves create momentum without over-engineering. A final reflection from the executive viewpoint. Data contracts are less about paperwork and more about predictable outcomes. When you formalize expectations and automate validation, you reduce friction, increase trust, and accelerate the shift from experiments to products. That's the difference between models and value. If you lead data at an enterprise, start small, measure impact, and make contract hygiene part of platform and governance investments. If you found this episode valuable, subscribe and share it with your network. And let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm Mirko Peters. We'll be back with more conversations on how data science and AI create real business impact. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.